Are you someone that feels tired and stressed from pushing yourself too hard to achieve your goals? Maybe you've taken the message of no pain, no gain, or hustle harder to the extreme, and meanwhile you're neglecting your own health and well-being in the process. So if this sounds at all like you, then you're in the right place. You found the right video. Because I'm going to talk about what are the dangers of pushing ourselves too hard and the importance of finding balanced approach to success. We're going to explore what the common ways people push themselves too hard, for example, doing too much cardio to lose weight all at once, cutting their diet out, making it super strict all at once. And I'm going to tell you some practical ways that you can find a more sustainable approach and a path to success. So sit back and relax and let's dive in the world of balanced success. So what's the problem with pushing yourself too hard? When you're constantly pushing yourself to the limit, you risk burnout or you could get injured. Like think about a car, like a mechanical engine, right? Your body is a system, kind of similar in an analogy, that if you push that thing to the red line all the time, your engine's gonna blow up. Similarly, your body's gonna have issues and you're gonna probably have injury or burnout, mental health breakdowns and things of that nature. So it's very important while you're pushing yourself to also develop this ear where you can listen to your body and know when it's time for you to take a break. When you feel like you're about to burn out, you need to take that break, but first you have to build that awareness around yourself, right? People that listen to, Gary Vee, one of my favorites, or David Goggins, extremely hardworking guy, they both are very extreme people. Now, what they believe in and their message of like working harder, pushing yourselves to be better, not stopping to take a rest and keep going, grind, hustle, this can lead to exhaustion, injury, and burnout. And the thing is, not everyone in the world is meant to live that way. Not everyone is even capable of that. And I think being real with yourself and realizing that, hey, I might not be cut out to be like Gary Vee, even though I love the guy and I want to follow him and I want to be something like him. It doesn't mean I can be, because look, it's not in your genetic makeup maybe. And that does not make you a bad person, because what you're leaving on the table is the realization of who you are supposed to be. What was your purpose in this world? What were you meant to create? That hasn't even been shown fully yet, right? Because you're still in your life, you're still figuring things out, you're still, moving forward. So what do you do instead of pushing yourself to the limit, right? It's pacing yourself. That's the opposite side of that. It's admirable to push yourself and achieve great things in life, but there's a fine line between pushing yourself and burning out. Because when you push yourself too hard for too long, you are gonna risk damaging your physical health and your mental health, which can have long-lasting consequences. So ask yourself, what is the cost of pushing yourself too hard? And is it worth it in the long run? Are there times when slowing down or taking a break might actually be the more productive and positive thing to do than pushing through? So because you got there, right? You got the car you wanted, you got the business you wanted, the girl, the whatever thing you're chasing. But what did you lose along the way? Are you still able to sustain moving forward? Or do you just feel like, man, I got this thing, I'm living in the penthouse, I got everything I wanted, I got the bucks in the bank, but I still feel like shit? That's not successful. If you're waking up in the morning not feeling good, even though you got where you wanted to go, then you didn't really achieve success, in my opinion, my friend. And I feel that this is the conversation that we should have so we can talk about what balanced success actually looks like. And this isn't something that I've personally figured out 100% either. I'm making this video as a way for me to learn more about this subject matter because it's something I'm practicing in my life. And now both Goggins and Gary Vee, they're known for their messages of hard work and discipline and perseverance and pushing yourself through and waking up and doing the hard thing. Now, that's fantastic and all, but these messages, when they're taken to an extreme, they can become a problem. Because I've seen people who take these messages to an extreme, and even myself at times, we can feel like, I gotta work really, really hard. I gotta get up early. I gotta, jump into a cold plunge or like go run fucking 15 miles or whatever, right? And I gotta work harder and longer than anyone else. I'm not gonna take breaks. I'm gonna outwork you. I'm gonna show you what the fuck I'm about by doing the thing and like not ever come up for air. That can lead to, I think, a distorted view in what success really is. Because if you think doing that is gonna not cause you physical harm and mental harm, then I think you're delusional. I think you're just not looking at life in a realistic way. Now, that's not to say that mindset isn't meant to be deployed in the right moments. I think the true wisdom is understanding when you want to be doing that and when you should be not doing that. I think it's that's really what I'm trying to say here. The wisdom part of it is really what's missing. And I think that's the nuanced part that some of these creators also take time to clarify, but maybe it doesn't get out there as much. And, as someone that listens to people that are, at the top of their game, and I look up to people who are ultra successful in their life, I also try to see how well-rounded are they, because anyone can become very successful in one dimension. They could have a great business, but they could have no family life, or they could have a great family life and have no, passion outside of that. So then, when things aren't going well out of the house, their whole identity is caught up with it. So what can you do? Instead of listening to these extreme examples and trying to be like them, what you got to do is listen to yourself. You got to create your own personal routine. What does that that mean? That means it's fantastic to go listen to people that are out there, talking about all this positivity and sharing like what they're like, and they're very motivating. Taking that in, but then adopting it to where you are and adopting it to your lifestyle, because not everyone can work like them, and people need downtime. No one can work 24/7 all day, every day for the rest of their life and like be okay. It just doesn't work that way. So I think developing a personal routine that incorporates both your work and your play and your time in between, kind of balancing out everything else that you do in between, is how you're going to achieve long-term success. And I believe that's what the definition of success really is. It's not just like being very singular in one thing and only being able to do that. I think the wisdom comes about in where you can handle lots of things well because you've built yourself that way. But the way you get there is by having long-term success, long-term discipline on something. We're living in a generation where, they got a bunch of sales on some Amazon thing, and then now like, I'm going to make a course about this. I'm going to be a guru on that. Like, how, man? Like, you haven't done this for even like a significant portion of your life. Success takes time. I think to be able to teach other people, it takes time. So if you're trying to achieve your own personal routine, you might want to ask yourself, what are activities that I enjoy that help me feel recharged, that help me feel full again? What is my ideal work and life balance like, and how can I achieve it? Because I guarantee you, you might not want to be working all day, every day, in all your off times. You might want to play some video games. You might want to go, hang with your homies, whatever it is for you that makes you feel alive. Figure that out for yourself and really make the successful life that you want. Now, another problem that a lot of people run into is they'll start working towards something really, really hard, and then they won't see results. And then they start to wonder, well, what the hell's going on? And this is a very important thing to talk about. You might be failing, not because you're not pushing yourself too hard, but maybe because you are overdoing certain things and you're not recovering properly and you're neglecting other aspects of your life. So what do you do in that case? I think you have to accept that you are a human. You have to be very real with yourself and realize that you're not going to do everything perfectly. I think this is a really silly thing, but we all do it, where we I'm only going to want to do this if I can do it the best way possible. And then we beat ourselves up for every little thing. Like for me, creating content is a huge lesson in that. I fuck up all the time. It is hard for me to do this, even though it's something that I feel like I could do good at. But at the same time, it's just about doing it and not being afraid to put out something that's not that great or not perfect, and just iterating over time and just let the chips fall as they may. And I think that really is where it comes down to, accepting that you are human and you're not going to be perfect. We're all that way. We make mistakes and we experience setbacks. We experience pain. We have to work towards things. We're going to have losses in life. We're going to have limitations in life. I think there's nothing wrong with accepting your humanity. And I think that is actually being kind to yourself, because at least you're not being super unrealistic. You're forgiving yourself that you've made mistakes and it's part of life. And you're recognizing that, listen, I got to take care of my mental health and my physical health if I want to be truly successful. Because just getting the money or just getting the end result isn't enough if my whole body and my mind are fucked along the way. If you are finding yourself in this position, then maybe you want to ask yourself things like, what do I need to do to start taking care of myself? Am I being too hard on myself right now? Am I being too hard on myself for the mistakes I've made? Am I using my setbacks as an opportunity to learn and grow? Or am I just sitting around being tired and sulking in that shit all the time? Be very real with yourself. Overall, what I'm trying to say here is you have to have a very balanced view on success if you really want to be genuinely successful. You got to know the difference between when to push yourself and when to pull back and take more rest, so you avoid burnout, so you avoid extreme amounts of stress and tiredness and fatigue, and avoid having this distorted view of what success means. It's really important to say that success is a personal journey, and you got to take care of yourself along the way. One of the biggest things I learned from being part of health and fitness, by going too hard in it, is if you started to get in really, really good shape, but then you started taking drugs along the way, and then you started doing things that you didn't think you would do before just to look a certain kind of way, well, you've lost sight of the goal that you had in mind. For me, that's kind of what happened with bodybuilding, right? I wanted to originally just be very, very healthy, but I took that to a competitive level, and I decided all I wanted to do was win. And taking that too far, it was fine in the short term. I got my goal. I got the amazing physique that I really wanted. It was the best I've ever looked. But at the same time, at what cost? Now, 10 years later almost, I wouldn't go back and change what I did because it was very valuable for me. But I realized that way that I was going wasn't sustainable. It wasn't something that I could have kept doing and have found myself actually being able to do that, for the last 10 years. Because what happened afterwards, I burnt out. I had to take a break. And then, I started to pick up other things that I had to take care of in my life that I was neglecting while I was really just focused on getting that goal. I had to build a career for myself. I had to figure out how to learn some of the skills that I wasn't spending the time learning because I was so focused on that. And now I move forward in my life with a lot more understanding of what really truly matters and keeping that at the front. Like for me, I'm a family man. So what really matters is in anything I do, my family comes first. Yeah, I have a work life. Yeah, I have business to manage and clients to meet and things to do. And yes, I do make content for all of you on social media, and that's a commitment as well. And I have the commitment to my own health. Now, all of that is great, but I know what my priorities are, and I know like what is most important to me. Like right now in my life, I have a little baby. The most important thing for me is to be there to see him grow. You know, I'm sitting here in this hotel today because I'm on a business trip. I really miss the shit out of him. And so I cherish this small little time that I get to be away because I miss him like crazy. I come home, all I want to do is play with him and be with him and give him so much more love. And I think just for me right now, that's more priority than like going to the gym 7 days a week, twice a day, eating like 6 meals a day that are all super, super clean. That's not my priority today. It's 2023 and we see all these gyms, including mine, that are packed with all these new people, right? That have just joined up and they want to lose weight or they want to gain muscle and they want to get in shape quick. Because this mentality we have in the West is really like, hey, get abs in like 30 days or get shredded in 90 days or whatever. It's like fantastic, but it doesn't work for everybody and it's not the right way to go. So one of the things I see all the time is the cardio equipment where you're seeing all these people every day in and day out. They're just jumping up and down on the machines and people think that doing more cardio is going to help them lose weight faster. But what they're doing is they're overdoing this activity over and over, and that does what? Either gives them burnout or they get some kind of injury or they just stop going altogether to the gym because it's really boring to just do cardio. But what they're really doing is they're neglecting other parts of their physical fitness. They're avoiding strength training and maybe not stretching or working on their flexibility. So what can you do instead? Well, the best thing I can suggest is you can switch up your routine. Instead of doing the same thing every day, write it out. It takes like 10 minutes to do this, but plan out like what you can do every day. So, one day you have weights, but you have, upper body mixed in with a specific kind of, cardio, and you have the lower body and you can break that down even further. Whatever the example it is for you, I've definitely shared some of this in my other videos where I talk about my workout routines, or you can watch my Twitter. I share my workout plans every week, what I'm doing. You'll see that I've mixed it up because for me, it's boring. I've been working out for like 12, 13 years now. And it's like, it gets really boring. So you have to make it interesting for yourself. Like I still love working out, but I have to change it up. I have to switch up my workout. So I'm not trying to do the same thing every day. Now, obviously, this goes without saying, you have to have some consistency in your routine so you can actually track progress. Because if you're never doing anything consistently, then it's not going to work. But switching up your workout means like, you're switching the order of your exercises. You're switching the movement, the different ranges of motion and things like that. Again, it's a balancing act between like pushing yourself, but also like keeping it interesting and making it work out for you in the long term. So a lot of people, when they start dieting, right, they can go from nothing, like eating shit every day, to just becoming extremely strict, like really, really fast. Now, we all know that eating a healthy diet is important, but being too strict can actually lead to disorders in eating, and it can lead to a negative relationship with food in general. Like you might completely have a disorder from food. Now, what happens when you restrict yourself too much is you're going to start to feel guilty for like eating something that you really shouldn't be eating because it's not part of your plan, but you're restricting it so much when you really want it and you can't stop thinking about it. And then that can create this like habit of, okay, if you decide to take a break, then you can't really just eat a little bit. You're going to start binging. You're going to eat a whole lot of it because you haven't had it now for a little while or whatever. I think that's really, really common today. A lot of people will do that. I know I fall into that. Like I'll start to eat really clean during the week. And then, here's Friday night. So I'm like, okay, I got to eat something. And my thing is always sugar. Like I love, ice cream and chocolate and like sweets. I love, but I also love like chips and shit like that. So I'll, kill the whole bag of chips or whatever. And I'll be like, bloated the next day and the next 3 days or whatever. You're like, why am I restricting myself? Well, I can have a little bit, here and there in my diet, and then I would not have this urge of wanting to overeat and overdo it. So I think ultimately with nutrition, if you're someone new, moderation is the key. Like you don't have to completely restrict everything from your diet, and especially not the things that are your favorite. Instead, you can find a way to incorporate them by maybe setting smaller portions and setting some sort of like days during the week that you do get to have them. And put your favorite meals in. I mean, I think if you were really doing well in the gym by like working out hard and you were consistent somewhat with your diet, you should be able to eat some of the things that you enjoy. And there shouldn't be like this huge taboo around it. Now, if you're training for like an elite competition that you have in like 8 weeks, this is not the conversation you and I would be having. It'd be a very different one. It would be like trying to go even harder and tighter, right? But that's for a short burst. But we're talking about people who are just starting out, who have, decided this year that is the year for them to become healthier, I would say don't take your nutrition to the extreme, because you might end up developing some really negative habits that you might find a very hard time undoing. Instead, go for less, try to eat less of the thing that you know you need to avoid to get in better shape, and work on eating more of the things that you know are going to benefit you. The old saying goes, one salad isn't going to make you fit and one burger isn't going to make you fat. So at the same time, enjoy it, but don't overdo it. And I think if you over restrict it, then you're going to overindulge. So you have to just really think about, like, how can I incorporate this into my diet? Many of you know that my focus word for this year was grit. But I think even taking the grit mindset to the extreme, like I was in January, led me to feel a bit of burnout. We were doing a lot of shit all at once, and my personal life was kind of falling apart a little bit. I've talked about that in some of the videos. Nothing too drastic, but it was just all at once, and it was creating a lot of stress in my body and my mind. Even though I would say that I was not as stressed as I was, my body clearly was showing signs of it. I was having these crazy breakouts all over my skin, which I've talked about, and I was having to find help to fix it all. So even having this extreme grit mindset can be a problem. Like, it's fantastic to push yourself, to want to work really hard, to work as hard as you possibly can and do as much work as you possibly can to get there. But the problem with all of that is you will still have all these setbacks and challenges, and those can be inspiring, but they can also be a problem if you are not handling them well. If every time you're going hard and then you hit a wall and you don't know how to handle or recover from that, that's going to be harmful. The never give up mentality is fantastic, like as like a philosophy, but in a practical execution sense, bro, sometimes go to bed, bro, give up and go to sleep, like try again the next day. That might be much better for you. And I think this pressure that we create with ourselves because we really want something is not sustainable, because if it's leading to exhaustion, then it's not worth it. If it's leading to burnout, it's leading to harm. And that's not what we're after. Like, you should want that thing, work really hard for it, and like desire and put your ideas together, visualize and all that good stuff. But also be very real that if you don't get there, it's okay. Like, you were doing it for the process, for the try, for the at bat, for the fucking throw, like you get to do it. That's what you're doing it for. But if you're getting there is at the cost of you completely losing your health, then was it worth getting there? Let's say you came to me and you said, hey man, I'm feeling like shit all the time. I wake up in the morning, I'm like depressed, I don't want to do anything. And I'd be like, all right, well, let's see, if I gave you $1 million, would you like feel good? You would feel good for a little while, right? Like, it'd be very hard to like bring you down if you had $1 million right now. And most people would be like, yeah, that'd be fucking great. Well, then I would say, okay, how about this? I'll give you $10 million, but the catch is you don't get to wake up tomorrow. Would you still take it? And 9 out of 10 times people will say, no, it's not worth it. Why is it not worth it? Well, because just waking up in the morning, life is great. This is awesome. It's like, well, hey, why aren't you feeling like that every day? Because what you're saying is that waking up in the morning is worth $10 million to you. What a great way. I think it's the real Brad Lee. That's the guy who like says this on the internet. So that's kind of nice. I mean, it's a very important thing that he's pointing out to. Like, this grit mindset that I have, that everyone else has, like deep inside, I know that if I don't get there, I'll be fine. It's not going to kill me. I'm still happy because the things that I care about most are going well in my life. Like, my family is well, my loved ones are okay, our bills are paid, we have food to eat, we have a place to live. Like, fuck all else, man. Like, focus on the laughter, focus on like the joy that we get to create in our home and our four walls. That's way more meaningful and valuable to me than any kind of success I'm going to get on like YouTube or even in my business world, in the tech field and all that stuff. Like, I love those games. I'm going to play them all out. I want big things out of them. I'm a hardworking individual, but I'm not going to let that come at the cost that it like hollows me out inside out, that it just makes me feel like shit, that gets me depressed, that it makes me further away from my family because I have to be on the road fucking 300 days a year to like sustain the lifestyle that I've built for myself to be the number one in whatever I'm doing. You know what I mean? Like, I think that this is very relevant for me personally. I think this is written just for me, that being extreme on the grit mindset, which I know. One of my sayings is actually, you got to know how to push yourself too far so you know how far you can actually go. Now, I came up with that back when I was, 19, 20 years old, when I was really hard into bodybuilding. Like, I wanted to push myself as hard as I possibly could because I was driven by all the negativity of people telling me that I couldn't do it. And I was like, yo, fuck that. But also I was being pushed and by my own like pressure internally by the circumstances in my life. The fact that my family's health was really poor and I wanted to be the exception to that rule. And I wanted to not just be the exception, I wanted to be a fucking anomaly. I wanted to be getting competitive in that space, right? So I came up with this thing of like going really, really hard. That's what I would see from all these bodybuilders, right? They were like pushing themselves so hard every single day and out, and they were just super dedicated. And I'm like, well, that's what it takes. And I learned a few things. I learned pushing myself too far, where my body would have issues. I would break out. I would have injuries. I would have tears. I would have, eating problems where I would like literally be like disgusted by certain foods, which I've just been overeating so much that like I literally want to like throw up instead of, eat that food. But what is the point of that? Like, what was the point of that negative relationship with all of that? Is it worth it then? Not really. It's much better instead of like trying to get shredded in 6 weeks that you make it a 6-year goal to lose 50 pounds. Why are you trying to lose 50 pounds in 90 days? That's super not sustainable. You're going to gain most of it back unless you know exactly what you're doing. And if you don't, it's like much better to stick to the longer term thing. And that's kind of what I've learned. Like I'm going to be in really good shape by the time I'm 35. I'm going to be 31 next month. Am I going to get shredded by 31? Fuck no, I'm not. But at the same time, like am I never going to be in really, really good shape again? Of course not. I will, and I'm working towards it, but I'm going to have ebbs and flows in this. But the most important thing I'm trying to share is I'm not going to fucking give up. That's the whole thing. So I'm not going to lead myself to a point where I burn out, where I get more injured, where I get worse off. I'm going to deal with the things. Now, you guys seen some of my videos from earlier this year. I did get injured in my lower back, but that wasn't even lifting. That was outside of lifting, but it affected all of it, right? My shoulder got hurt from doing too heavy on one, sprint of 4 weeks of whatever, working out. But my point is like, I've done these things so many times over and over, and you will fuck this up. So I guess this video can be used as a reminder to kind of get you back to get you back to the center. I think a lot of people, including myself, have struggled with this problem where you're either staying up late or getting up super early. And I think some people really believe that sacrificing sleep is necessary. And sometimes it is for you to like get to that goal. But for you to be productive or successful in life, that is not necessary that you do that all the time. Again, it depends on what you consider to be success. But what I can tell you is chronic sleep deprivation is going to lead to a lot of health problems. It's going to affect how you think, which again, if you're trying to be good at something, I think your cognitive function is key. And it's going to reduce your immune system function. So if you're trying to do this for the long term and you're sick all the time, you're definitely not going to get very far. And it increases your risk for all kinds of diseases. Stress causes people lots of diseases. So you want to avoid that, right? If you're constantly sleep deprived, that's probably not going to get you the success that you want. So what's the solution? Again, going back to that favorite word of balance, is giving yourself the time to take the pressure off yourself from not pushing all the time and not becoming overwhelmed and discouraged in your journey. I think this is super healthy to try to take the time back. When you dial in your sleep, which is why it's one of the 5 pillars, it affects everything else. All your good hormones are going to be regulated. All of your toxicity in your system is going to have time to get flushed out, your brain to rest properly, for you to wake up and then attack the day really hard. This is a video about self-improvement, bettering yourself and all that. But the last thing I want to say, that there's also a problem with watching so many self-improvement videos without taking action. So what do I mean by that? Like self-improvement videos and books and podcasts, they're all great. Like listening to motivational speakers, it's all fine. Watching them without taking action is not, because that's just pure procrastination. And people feel like they're making some kind of progress by learning something new, a new strategy, something new, somebody repeated a different way, and you heard it and you're like, whoa, shit, that's so good. I get it again. But then what did you do from it, right? Not actually doing anything from it is not making any progress. And that in itself can become a mental masturbation. It can become a process where you just are addicted to getting that high of feeling good by listening to someone who's really well spoken. And I would say do the same kind of distinction with my videos. Like you can listen to me all day, you can DM me, I can message you back, I can get you all pumped up and fired up. But ultimately I tell you the same thing. It's like you gotta do the work. I can't do it for you. I can motivate you, but ultimately, you're going to have to find your balance with weed. You're going to have to find your balance on what you need and want in life. I can't tell you that, and I can't do it for you. So the punchline is, if you're doing that all the time, maybe it's time for you to switch it up. And instead of watching videos, maybe you cut it out for 90 days or 30 days and just focus on doing the things that you've learned so far. Writing in your notebook every single day, kind of going in. When you journal, you're tapping into your unconscious mind. What you write on paper, you don't know ahead of time. And it's unfolding in the present moment. It's the most profound activity that we're losing touch with. That's why I talk about doing that, where you can take a piece of paper and just ponder upon your own wisdom, ask yourself questions and answer it. It sounds stupid and ridiculous, but at the same time, it fucking works. And when you do it, often you will get a lot of clarity and you will feel that, okay, I have a way of getting through things. I have a process here. Now you just got to start doing that every day. And for the next 30 days, if you're so addicted to watching self-help content, put it away and start doing it. I hope you found this video helpful. It took a whole lot of thought to put this out there, and I'd really love to know what you found helpful and what you would like to know more about.